Welcome, everyone, to your favorite show on LinkedIn. I'm, of course, talking about the lovely program known as Talent Experience Live, covering everything that you need to know in talent acquisition, recruiting, talent management, and HR, and everything in between. I am your host, Devin Foster, and the Talent Experience Live program is proudly brought to you by the good folks here at Phenom, whose purpose is, without a doubt, to help 1 billion people find the right job. Of course, that is not a typo. That is the reason why we put on this program. That is the reason why we create memes and post them on Twitter and LinkedIn. That is the reason why we create a fantastic piece of technology known as an intelligent talent experience platform, which of course helps candidates find the right job, employees evolve in their current roles and beyond, recruiters achieve next level productivity, as well as the always coveted efficiency, and managers build better teams with data analytics and, of course, automation. And you can't say automation without referencing the hottest topic in the world today, artificial intelligence. And of course, Phenom is powered by AI. It is super slick and it has fantastic machine learning. Everything is on the back end, so you can barely even feel it on the front end. So if any of this interests you at all, helping candidates find the right fit faster, employees evolve, recruiters become more efficient, or managers build better teams, head on over to phenom.com, run, don't walk, to learn more information, where you will likely see, actually you won't likely, you 100% will see a nice little banner at the top of the page promoting both state of candidate experience reports, which is what we are talking about today. I think at this point, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was joined by Monica Montessa, who spoke with me about the US version where we audited the Fortune 500. And today we are going to dive into the newly released version, which dives into the Euro 100 and audits their career sites. So we're going to get into all of that today. But before we start, we always like to kick off the program with an icebreaker. That's one of the benefits of doing this live, or if you catch it on YouTube or something like that, you can always comment and promote this to your friends, family, and loved one. But today's icebreaker is, what is your favorite European city to travel to? Since we are talking about the European 100, I thought it would be all too fitting to ask, where do you like to vacation? Where is your next holiday, if you will, planned in Europe? My favorite city goes without question. It is the city of London. It is where my favorite football club plays. It is had a huge influence in us and naming my daughter as well. I won't get into that right now, but neither here nor there. London is my favorite city to travel. And as you hop into the comment section and let me know where your favorite city to travel is, I wanted to talk a bit more about the State of Candidate Experience 2023 Benchmark Report, European edition. Obviously, this is the second annual edition. We've been doing the State of Candidate Experience for about 7 years now. And last year we were like, hey, why don't we also do it with European organizations? And that's what we did. So obviously we graded those Euro 100 on how they attract, engage, as well as convert talent. We also looked at artificial intelligence as well. And this episode, we are going to dive into it. I have a very special guest, but I see some comments pouring in, so I want to shout those out real quick. Maggie says Heidelberg, Germany, one of her favorite places in the whole world. And Andrea says Paris, but her next trip, Paris is her next trip, but she loves Florence. Andrea, I've been to both of those cities. They're both fantastic. Maggie, I haven't been to Heidelberg, Germany, but now it's on my list. Now I will travel there at some point. Let us know where your favorite place is to travel to as we bring on our very special guest today. I'm going to be joined by Sebastian Hust, who is Senior Director of Talent Experience Strategy here at Phenom. We're going to talk all things European Edition, State of Candidate Experience. And without any more hesitation, let's bring Sebastian onto the program. Sebastian, welcome. How are you?
Devin, thank you so much for having me. Wow. Very rare that that's such a big introduction. So yeah, happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you, Sebastian. The one thing that we always do on this program, we talk about plenty of topics and everything in between, but we always ask our guests the icebreaker question. So I want to ask you, before we get into the State of Canada Experience European Edition, what is your favorite European city to travel to?
Well, first of all, I didn't know London is your favorite city in Europe.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't know that London gave the name of your daughter. So I'd love to meet Arsenal one day.
Yes, of course.
So,
Yeah, you go.
no, I was just going to my answer. So my answer last year would have been Berlin, but since I now live in Berlin for the very reason why I like the city so much, I'm gonna go for Modena, Italy. Why? Because
Okay.
I've never eaten better food when I was traveling, and well, I never got the chance to propose to someone like my wife, which I did in Modena. So this got to be my favorite city now.
Absolutely. The memories. I proposed to my wife in Boston, not my favorite city. I'm going to be honest with you. I actually can't stand Boston, but neither here nor there. It was just a special moment for us. I love Berlin. I've traveled there once on a bachelor party. We had a fantastic time. And I've traveled to Italy a few times as well. You can't go wrong with food in Italy. But Sebastian, we could talk about places to travel and eating and everything in between all day long, proposals. But we're here to talk about the State of Canada Experience European Edition report, which came out this morning, I believe 11 a.m. German time. So it is hot off the presses. And for those folks who may not have gotten the opportunity to download yet, can you tell us briefly what exactly is the State of Canada Experience report?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely highly recommended to download it. It's basically a benchmark report that audits, scores, and ranks the career side. I should better say the entire candidate experience of the top 100 companies in Europe. So the companies with the most employees, with the most revenue, that have the biggest impact on the labor market here. And basically, it covers areas highlighting how these companies as employers attract candidates, engage with them, convert them, and also takes a closer look at, how they leverage artificial intelligence. It looks at things like social presence. How easy are these companies to find? When I search for jobs in Google, for instance, the job boards they use, the search functionality on the career side. So there's plenty of things that we take into consideration. Also, additional technologies like chatbots. How well do these career side react, when you interact with them? Do they personalize? How do you leverage your employer branding content, your EVP? So it's a very, very extensive report, and it gives basically a very good indicator of how the market is progressing, how the employers in Europe start to adapt new technologies. And that's a good thing. We've been doing this for the past years now, even in Europe. So you can actually start seeing a progression.
Yeah, no, I think it's important that you mention the progression there, because we obviously look at the European 100, the Fortune 500 as kind of the gold standard of organizations, right? They have hundreds of thousands of employees across all of them. They are typically the pinnacle of innovation as well as just consumer goods as a whole. So when we look at organizations in the company we look at, we compare them to these large companies, right? So I want to ask you, you mentioned that looking at it over the years, and I think that's an important aspect, because if you were to take a snapshot of any statistic, I'll use football or soccer for an example. If a striker was to score 3 goals in one game and then not score a goal the rest of the year, if you were just to look at that one striker, you think this is the next Lionel Messi, right? This is the next Cristiano Ronaldo, whoever it may be. But if you look at the trends of the year, that may not be the case. So I want to ask you, you familiarized yourself with the report. We got you a sneak peek of it. Have you noticed any trends over the past 2 years that we've been doing the European edition of this, where there may be some positive signs in the talent acquisition space?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been doing these reports in the US for 7 years. In Europe, we started to do them in 2020. So one thing that's new in this report is that we actually can do this progressional analysis, right? Since 2020. And, if you think back yourself, into 2020, coming from a society that was influenced by a global pandemic, work has changed so much for everyone here, right? For employers, for job seekers, everything we really knew and thought about candidate experience has completely shifted, especially in the past 2 years. So that's why it's a good thing to take a look at. And well, with more jobs open, then there are candidates looking for them, and we see this across countries in Europe. Companies really have a very intrinsic interest to stand out, right? A couple of ways we've seen they're doing this. They start leveraging more and more intelligent technology, more and more automation, and they will start doing more and more automation. Just a few, I guess we'll get a bit deeper at a later stage, but a few things that I've recognized in this report is that more and more career sites can be viewed on any device, no matter whether you're on a smartphone, on a tablet, on a PC. I think this is something we are getting really, really good at in Europe as well. More and more sites are really cautious about having up-to-date jobs listed, right? Remove expired jobs from external sites. And I think there's a big trend. And I agree with you with your striker analogy. You have to put this into context, which I'm happy to do later. But we see more and more companies leverage chatbot technology. We see more and more companies leverage localization, right? Making location-based job recommendations and even job recommendations based on browsing history. So it almost feels like companies start to really understand that you have to treat your potential employees just like your potential customers.
No, that makes total sense. And I apologize for my outdated striker references. I should have mentioned Erling Haaland, who has set the record in the Premier League for goals in a year. But I get off topic here. You mentioned a lot of things there. The one that I want to highlight first is the importance of being able to apply on any device. I think back to not a terribly long time ago, but 10 or so years, when digital transformation started to happen in the application process. I remember walking into these big box stores like Target, like Walmart, and rather than them handing you a paper application, they had computers that were in the side of the store for you to fill out your application because they weren't accessible on mobile devices. And perhaps at that time, not everyone had a smartphone. We all had cell phones, but not smartphones. So the ability to really apply to a job anywhere, at any place, on any device that you have has to be important. And the other thing that I want to ask my next question on is, you mentioned the use of AI, right? And it really coming to the forefront over the past, I would say, 5 years. I think back to 2018, 2019, we were just experimenting with artificial intelligence. Now we have, content creation, we have everything in between. One question around that is, does this report show that it is now a must-have for career sites? You have to have personalization on demand by way of artificial intelligence. Otherwise, someone's going to abandon your application and go try and find a job elsewhere where it will recommend some of the jobs that are best fit for them. Would you say it's a must-have now?
Well, I would say the report clearly shows those who do leverage it, they score so much higher, disproportionately higher than the ones who don't. It really is a game changer, and it's mind-blowing how we completely accept it in the e-commerce world, to get recommendations by AI, whether we use Netflix, whether we use Spotify, whether we shop on Amazon. AI is influencing everything. But for some reason, there was a bit, companies, I felt like in the past decade, were a little cautious, with the term AI. I see a rapid shift. I've been with the Phenom family now for 2 years, and this is growing exponentially, the interest now, and people start really investing serious money, and they see the benefits for it, right? If you steer candidates to the right job, if you use AI to understand the interest and the intent of I know I'm saying customer already, of a career site visitor, and in a way that they are in a way customers, right? The career site visitors.
Yes.
So actually, for some of our clients, they are, right? Because we have clients, who sell products to the end consumer. So obviously, there's a good reason to give them a good candidate experience as well. And AI really plays a very important part in that, be it a personalized job recommendation, but not just the job recommendation, the overall user experience should be individualized or personalized to my individual user behavior. Because, on a standard career site, 96% of the candidates that visit a career site, they just go away without leaving a job application. So what do you do with these 96% if only 4% convert? And this is really where AI comes in. They take them by the hand, they get their data so you can reach out later to them, and it gives you basically a bigger talent pipeline to choose from. So yeah, definitely it's a game changer.
Yeah, no, I love that you mentioned. I know it was a little bit of a slip of the tongue there. We were going to say customers instead of candidates, but they are two in the same. I remember, having a discussion with a large European telecommunications provider, and they equated losing customers to a poor candidate experience. Fast forward to today, Spotify just released their, and this was another example that you provided, their AI DJ, which is literally like a video, or excuse me, a DJ on the radio who says, "Hi, Sebastian, I've looked through all of the music that you've liked. Here are some songs that you listen to, from back in the day. Here are some new recommendations." We expect that in every aspect. And for you to say that the organizations that leverage it effectively to create that personalized experience, similar to the way Spotify, Netflix, and all of these other wonderful organizations do, they're performing well. And when you perform well in this report, I imagine it comes with an increase in applicants, an increase in potentially hires, and folks that are going to stay with your company for a long haul because they've had such a wonderful experience. We can talk about sunshines, rainbows, daisies the whole time, and all of the great stories that this report shows. But we all know people want to hear the bad stuff, Sebastian. So were there any areas of concern when you read through the report that you said, "Oh, wow, I did not anticipate this many of the European companies European 100 to score poorly in this area"?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You bet. So just one remark on the question before, right? If you generate a good candidate experience, well, you make the candidate also want to come back, right? And they start engaging with you more. But that also creates expectations, right? So one big one, that we should consider a concern is, especially for job seekers, is the communication after the application is submitted. Candidates expect to hear from companies throughout the entire process. And if you don't reach out to candidates, and even worse, you don't reach out to applicants, you might lose them. Depending on which industry you are in, there's a high competition for talent these days. So you better get your messaging game right as well. So, and it's easy, right? Send a communication when the application is submitted, send a status update when the candidate hits another hiring status and so on. So talent acquisition teams really need to keep up with job seekers, keeping them up to date, and also do this in a personalized way. And also here, coming back to the AI story, can help you very much to get the talent signals, and send a personalized message just in the right moment to make sure the candidate has a great experience. I like to say, when I am talking to CHROs, is the candidate experience doesn't end on the career side, right? It goes through the entire talent selection process. And coming back to the sample that you mentioned earlier, right? If people don't hear back from you, get a bad candidate experience, which has a bad impact on your overall company reputation as an employer.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And one thing that I think is becoming more and more relevant in today's age is job titles, job requirements are changing. When we look at artificial intelligence, right? There are folks who may be in an organization and they're looking for that next step in their career, but they need examples of something similar in their industry. That's, hey, we are in transportation and logistics, and now there is, I don't know, an AI logistics coordinator, maintenance person, right? Or whatever the case may be. They log on to potentially a competitor's career site, look at the jobs that are available, and then they serve them up to their bosses and say, this is the career path that I want to go, right? This is the direction that the industry is headed. With that being said, serving up some of the information that you mentioned at the right time could be ideal, right? Let's say they find a job, they don't get the promotion that they want at their current organization, and your company is leveraging AI and a fantastic candidate experience to send them an email that says, hey, we saw you looked at this job, it's still open. Are you still interested? So there's a lot of key components there. And I say that specifically on an industry level, because I think when a lot of these organizations, I know in the Fortune 500, I imagine so in the European 100 as well, they don't just compare themselves to the 500 organizations as a whole, right? If you work at a logistics organization, you are going to compare yourself to other logistics companies because you're, in most cases, fighting over the same talent, right? So is there an industry breakdown for organizations to look at and say, hey, how did we stack up against the competition and their candidate experience?
Absolutely. And I think it's very, very important that you compare apples with apples if you try to get a benchmark, where you are standing, because, while you probably are in kind of a competition with other industries, you want to see where you stack up. I really have to give a shout out to the team that put together all the data that went into this report. So yeah, it's amazing. There are, in fact, 14 different industries that we considered, which includes overall scores for that industry. So we build averages for every single industries in terms of how the career side of the Fortune 100 companies that fall into that very industry actually score in terms of attraction, in terms of engagement, in terms of conversion, and how well they are already leveraging AI, which gives you a good indication. When you tend to score on the bottom end of this list, it should give you an indicator, to act and actually get involved into these topics. Are we maybe not attracting enough candidates? It actually also shows you where your bottleneck could be, right? It's great if you attract a lot of candidates, but if you are very bad at converting them because your application process is too complicated, then this is something to think about, and that should give you also arguments to have a discussion internally, right? When looking for new products.
Yeah, forgive me, but I'm going to use a few more football examples here. If you're comparing Thiago Silva to Erling Haaland, they're going to have discrepancies in goals, in tackles, and in everything in between. But to your point, identifying bottlenecks, if Man City was to let in 100 goals this year, 150 goals, and Erling Haaland still scored 50 plus, you'd see why they wouldn't have performed well, why they didn't get to hoist the trophy at the end of the year. Looking at that from an organization perspective, I think is vital, because you can immediately identify our conversion is through the roof, but we're not attracting enough folks. We have to really get more content out there, whether it be relative content to the candidates. You can offer a personalized journey, which serves up jobs and recommendations. But if there isn't a day in the life of a logistics coordinator or a day in the life of a sales representative at their organization, they may be disinterested. So great point there. You mentioned some of the metrics, Sebastian. I want to ask you, are there any stats that you may have remembered, because they jumped out at you, or something that you remembered offhand that may entice some folks to go and download the report right now that you really thought were shocking?
Oh, 100%. I actually want to close the loop now that I opened earlier when I said, hey, there's a great trend. More and more companies do job recommendations based on browsing history. In fact, the number said, and I'm having in front of me here, it says that 525% is the increase of companies that actually leverage so this seems like an awesome increase, right? While at the same time, one has to say that in total, if you look at the consolidated report, 75% of all of them still don't do it, right? So there's a trend going into this direction, but there's still a big gap to close. So also a big opportunity to actually implement that now and, be ahead of the curve in the next year, maybe. Same goes with chatbot usage, right? There was a 67% increase in using a recruitment chatbot compared to last year. But still 90% of the Fortune European 100 companies still don't use a chatbot, although this is the number one conversion helper, so to speak, on the career side. So if you bring candidates on the career side, the chatbot is the 24/7 assistant that you are looking for, in order to get talent into your pipeline. So not leveraging it is well, it's a lost opportunity, so to speak. So I would say these
Absolutely.
two are very striking out. So we do go into the right direction, but there's still a big gap to close.
Yeah, at a quick glance, a 525% increase, you think, oh, this is fantastic. But when you look at it and you say, well, 75% of the European 100, that's 75 companies, still don't have that personalized job recommendations. You think, maybe there's something to scratch your head at. Chatbots as well, 67% increase is fantastic. But when you look at it, that organizations as a whole still aren't adopting it enough. I think that's going to change. We mentioned this trend with generative AI, with products like Phenom X Plus, and really the ability to have conversations with digital algorithms, if you will, to get to the right place, to find the right job. I think we're going to see an increase in a little bit more adoption of that. Sebastian, you mentioned 75 of those, or 75% didn't have the personalization that we touched on there. If there's an organization that potentially wanted to learn more about why they didn't score higher, where can they go to get more information about the State of Candidate Experience European edition?
Oh yeah, definitely. They can just reach out to us. Let's make it easy.
Okay.
Shoot us a direct message. If you want, you see my name here. You can also ping me on LinkedIn if you like, and I'm happy to do the talks. I'm very well connected to the people who actually captured the data. We really understand, what are the positives, what are the negatives, or I shouldn't say negatives, but maybe room for improvement. And yeah, and we'll actually show you, what could be fast tracks to get better, and how should you tackle this from a strategic point of view, also for the long term?
Absolutely. No, the DMs are open. We understand that. But one question, and this is a big ask of you, Sebastian. Let's say you are company Euro 101, so you weren't included in the report, or 105, or you're rapidly growing. Right? There's a lot of organizations out there. Is there a way for them to get audited and, as you put it, compare apples to apples on the same grading scale with the European 100? Is there a way for them to take a look at what their candidate experience looks like?
You bet there is. So we are candidate experience freaks, and obviously we love to, and we are data freaks. So obviously we love to generate these kind of reports also individually. So we're taking a request for a career site audit, and it will do just what you just described, right? It shows you how you score, and then you can really see how you would rank against these companies of the European 100. So we will treat you just like a European 100.
I love that. I love that. Sebastian, before I let you go, I know it's getting late over there, and you're obviously very busy with all of this candidate experience. Any final thoughts? Any last words that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I would say, just look into the market, see what's happening, see what's working I mean, we've implemented a new career site here in a very, very popular fashion brand. And they've been getting requests like, hey, how did you get this nice career site from, and so on. So there is a big trend. So not just due to the report, you can really see what's working and what's not working. And if today you still haven't leveraged AI for anything, like for job recommendations, right? For, I don't know, personalization in general, if your chatbot is not AI powered, and I think this should give you enough motivation to start doing the conversations. How would AI look like? We just talked about generative AI, which is the next evolution. So if you don't use AI at all, it almost feels like you're already lagging behind. So, and that's why we're here, right? We're here to educate. We're here to show what works for other companies. And that's why I'm also in this company, right? To see, hey, what works everywhere outside of Northern America. And I'm happy to share this insight with anyone who sees this now.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Leave it to the fashion brand for people to raise their hands and say, hey, where did you get that? I think of some of my favorite articles of clothing where people they won't stop me on the street, Sebastian. I'll be honest. But some of my friends will be like, "Hey, where did you get that shirt? I'd love to get it." So I love the parallel there of the candidate experience and fashion as a whole. Sebastian, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. If anyone at home wants to download the report, you want to speak with Sebastian, you can do so at phenom.com. You can shoot him a message on LinkedIn if you want to speak with him personally. But thank you so much again, and we'll see you soon, Sebastian. Is that all right?
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Take
Awesome.
care.
Have a great day. That was Sebastian Hoos, who is here of Phenom. He is actually Senior Director of Talent Experience Strategy. So that's all things combined, within an intelligent talent experience platform. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's been with the organization for, he put it there, 2 years, and he's really ingrained himself into the talent experience. So feel free to ask him any questions, or if you're not ready for a conversation, I know not all of us are, head on over to phenom.com. You can download the State of Candidate Experience European Edition, which includes the Euro 100, or the State of Candidate Experience 2023 Benchmarks Report, which looks at the Fortune 500 here in the US. And if you're feeling crazy, you can download them both and compare and contrast and see who's doing better in which way, shapes, or form based upon your industry. Because as we all know, the economy as a whole is global, and rapidly the talent economy is becoming even more global as well, when you can have folks work from all over the globe. So download them both. Don't take it from me, but take it from Sebastian. I hope everyone enjoyed today's episode. We are going to have a special guest next week. He's an important guy. I don't want to give too much away right now because we're still working through the topic, but you will not want to miss next week's episode on June the 8th. Before I go, I hope everyone has a fantastic Pride Month. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We look forward to seeing you next week. Have a safe weekend. If you are in the northeast part of the United States, enjoy this beautiful weather out here, and we'll see you soon. Thanks so much. Have a great day.